here's the verse. Here's the word. Aradhanam, topmost method of worshiping. Just one point in that verse. That activity, he indeed, Purushasya, of the Supreme Person, Akila Atmanaha, who is the super soul of everyone. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. But before I read it, I'm going to read the other verses quickly, and we'll come up to this verse. This is verse 39. I'll just read the translation. People in general, being bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are always engaged in animosity toward one another, as we know very well throughout the world nowadays. But devotees, even at the risk of their own temporary lives, try to save them. Purport. This is the characteristic of a Vaishnava, paradukha-dukhi. A Vaishnava is always unhappy to see the conditioned souls unhappy. Otherwise, he would have no business teaching them how to become happy. That's very profound, very, very deep. That devotee is unhappy. When Prahlad Maharaj was asked by Nrsingadev to offer him a benediction, he said, I don't need any, I'm fine. I'm completely happy, simply meditating on you. But my only unhappiness is to see these people, these poor, suffering people in the material world. So I'm unhappy to see them unhappy. That's the characters. That's why Prabhupada gave so much emphasis on Prahlad Maharaj, spoke so much about Prahlad Maharaj. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was in Jagannath Puri, he didn't have them just recite 10th canto, but they'd have his devotees recite the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Nrsingadeva, because of that mood of compassion. And in the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, same Prahlad Maharaj appears as Vasudev Dutt, exhibiting even more compassion, even more, because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu being the compassionate nature of Krishna. His associates, Vasudev Dutt, who was Prahlad Maharaj, he exhibited the compassionate, even more compassionate nature of Krishna. He was willing, it's actually, if you think about it, the mentality of Vasudev Dutt, it's completely inconceivable. That he said, let everyone in the whole, he didn't just mean the people in this town, he said every living entity in the whole universe, all go back to Godhead, and I'll stay here and suffer the sinful reactions of all of the living entities in the universe. I mean, can you, it's unimaginable, it's inconceivable. Such compassion, such willingness to suffer, to help others. I mean, we think it's, I'm out here and it's freezing cold and I'm suffering, my hands are aching and I'm suffering for helping the conditioned souls, but he was willing to, life after life, to stay here forever, practically speaking. He said, I'll stay here forever and suffer just so that everyone else can go back to Godhead and not suffer anymore. That's the compassion of a Vaishnava. That's the compassion that where we can pray to Nrsingadev, Prahlad Maharaj here, to just get a drop of that feeling of compassion for conditioned souls. And these are the motivations. This kind of meditating on this pastime, meditating on this, the nature of this quality of compassion, is the real motivation for going out and distributing Prabhupada's books, because it's the greatest compassion. It's that which will save the people and actually make them happy. It's the only solution for making people happy. So, in materialistic life, people must certainly engage in activities of animosity. Materialistic life is therefore compared to a samsara davanala, a blazing forest fire that automatically takes place. Lord Shiva and his followers in the Parampara system tried to save people. Remember that this chapter is about Shiva being willing to As you know, when they were churning the ocean of milk, those of you read Srimad-Bhagavatam, now if you haven't, like I said again, you've got to get a set of Srimad-Bhagavatams because you don't know what you're missing. You don't realize what you're missing. The greatest nectar in the whole creation, Srimad-Bhagavatam. And Prabhupada has given it to us in a readable, easy to acquire form. It costs less than a cell phone nowadays. I was just reading that someone was mentioning that. It's actually true. If you want to buy a Srimad-Bhagavatam, sometimes we think, well, how much they sell it for here, 250, 300 euros, something like that. That's what a cheap cell phone costs. So everyone has a cell phone, so why can't everyone have even if you're even the rickshaw wall in India has a cell phone. They don't cost so much in India, but still they cost a lot. So why can't everyone have a Srimad-Bhagavatam? So, and not miss the incredible nectar that's there available to everyone. The Prabhupada's made available to everyone. So, so this is about Lord Shiva. He was, as they were churning the ocean, first came poison, just like we know when we start the process of purification, practicing Krishna consciousness, sadhana bhakti, sometimes poison comes out, material desires. We become conscious of how many material desires we actually have. We didn't think we were so bad. We thought we were almost pure devotees probably when we started. But then as we purify ourselves gradually, all the anarthas, all the contamination comes out. So as they were churning this ocean to get the nectar, poison came out. And Lord Shiva, that's what these verses are all about. That Lord Shiva is willing to suffer, to take all that poison and swallow it, drink it, take it within, and for the benefit of everyone else, to save everyone else. So this is our line. He was the head of a sampradaya. Shiva's the Shiva sampradaya. This is one of our 4 sampradayas, and he's setting that example, that being willing to suffer for the benefit of others. Lord Shiva and his followers in the Parampara system tried to save people from this dangerous condition of materialistic life. This is the duty of devotees following the principles of Lord Shiva and belonging to the Rudra Sampradaya, also our Sampradaya, not only the Rudra Sampradaya. There are 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas, and the Rudra Sampradaya is one of them, because Lord Shiva, Rudra, is the best of the Vaishnavas, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Indeed, as we shall see, Lord Shiva drank all the poison for the benefit of humanity. So there are just a couple other verses, and we'll get to today's verse. My dear gentle wife, Bhavani, when one performs benevolent activities for others, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is very pleased. And when the Lord is pleased, I am also pleased, along with all other living creatures. Therefore, let me drink this poison, for all the living entities may thus become happy because of me. Next verse, 41. Srila Shukadeva Goswami continued, after informing Bhavani in this way, Lord Shiva began to drink the poison, and Bhavani, who knew perfectly well the capabilities of Lord Shiva, gave him her permission to do so. To see, even Lord Shiva, he asked permission of his wife. He had to ask permission of his wife to make this sacrifice. But because she knew that his potencies, there's no problem. But still he asked permission. Because it would seem as if he was risking his life, so she was also part of his life. So he asked if it's okay. Interesting point. Thereafter, Lord Shiva, this is 42, who is dedicated to auspicious, benevolent work for humanity, compassionately took the whole quantity of poison in his palm and drank it. Purport. Although there was such a great quantity of poison that it spread all over the universe, Lord Shiva had such great power that he reduced the poison to a small quantity so that he could hold it in his palm. One should not try to imitate Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva can do whatever he likes, but those who try to imitate Lord Shiva by smoking ganja and other poisonous things will certainly be killed by such activities. If there's any ganja smokers or ex-ganja smokers are in the room, you can take this advice. I know might be some. I don't see them here now, but there might be some. 43. As if in defamation, the poison born from the ocean of milk manifested its potency by marking Lord Shiva's neck with a bluish line. That line, however, is now accepted as an ornament of the Lord, showing his compassion. Actually. So now we'll come to today's verse, 44, which is like the culmination of these previous verses. It is said that great personalities almost always accept voluntary suffering. Because of the suffering of people in general. This is considered the highest method of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart. Whew. That's powerful, very incredible verse. The highest method of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by sacrificing our comfort for helping others. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here's an explanation of how those engaged in activities for the welfare of others are very quickly recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's what we experienced. We experienced when Srila Prabhupada was present, that those who sacrificed and dedicated their life and energy and risked, as Prabhu was explaining yesterday, Jai Satchidananda Prabhu was explaining yesterday. Those who risked, they became noticed and appreciated by Srila Prabhupada. And that was our desire. That was the desire of the devotees. We understood. We didn't feel so much compassion. That comes by prolonged study of the Shastra and practice of Krishna consciousness. Gradually, that quality, you begin to feel for the suffering of others. But in the meantime, we do know that pleasing the spiritual masters is the perfection of life. Pleasing the spiritual master is our goal, because he's the one who's saving us. He's the one who's bringing us out of illusion, bringing us out of the material world, bringing us back to home, back to Godhead. And so our whole goal in life is to serve him. Serving means pleasing. You don't serve Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi navritam anukulena krishnanu shilana bhaktirutama. Favorable service. Service should be favorable. That means for the pleasure of the person served, for his pleasure. So a disciple, a devotee, his goal is to please the spiritual master. And Srila Prabhupada demonstrated very clearly how much he was pleased by devotees sacrificing their energy to distribute his books. And if you want, do you want me to read a couple in between or at the end? Because I have a number of letters. I even have a few letters to myself from Prabhupada about book distribution. And I don't know if this is the right time. We could just intersperse. So let's say we intersperse, if that's okay. I'll just read one. Let's see. I think I read this when I was in Switzerland, but I'm not sure. I only read a couple when I was in Switzerland. This is a letter to me in 1973, and it's embarrassing to read because it says something about me, but it illustrates a point so that it's useful. It's naturally my favorite letter. He says, please accept my blessings. I am in receipt of your letter dated December 2nd, 1973. Thank you very much for pushing on our book distribution program so enthusiastically. Kindly offer all the devotees there my deepest gratitude. Just see Prabhupada's, his deepest gratitude for their sacrifice in distributing his books. For their wonderful service in this connection. I understand from Karandar, by the way, you should know who he is, because he was a very important figure. Practically, this devotee, Karandar, and another devotee named Bale Mardan, they practically ran the movement under Prabhupada's direction. There was a period of time where they were the two BBT trustees and GBC, and practically they ran the whole movement under Prabhupada's direction. So he was quite an important devotee. I understand from Karanda that you are one of the most, because he was a BBT trustee, so he was receiving the BBT remittances. BBT remittances means paying for the books, because temples would order books. Shri Prahlad Nrsingadev Ki Jai. Temples would order the books from the BBT, but then they would have to pay for them. Sometimes temples, they would neglect to pay for them. So Prabhupada had a newsletter where we would see if the devotees were paying for the books, because if the devotees didn't pay for the books to the BBT, then they couldn't print more books, and the whole thing would stop. That you are one of the most staunch supporters and workers for distributing our books, and I assure, this is the key point, and I assure you, Prabhupada's saying that, I assure you that it is the highest service to my Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. Prabhupada always felt as I'm serving my spiritual, my Guru Maharaj. You're assisting me in my service to my Guru Maharaj. He was never thinking you're serving me. He was never thinking the services for me. He was always thinking, I'm serving my Guru Maharaj, and all of you thank you for assisting me in serving my Guru Maharaj. That was always Srila Prabhupada's mood. And and here he says it, I assure you that it's the highest service to my Guru Maharaj, pushing on book distribution. So this, when we got this letter, we were, of course, 100 times more enthusiastic too. Because I understood one thing at that time was that all Lakshmi, and I would sometimes send, I was the president of the temple, and it's the duty of the president of the temple to pay the BBT for the books. And so I would always send in, as soon as the money would come, I would send first thing to BBT, first thing to pay for the books. And if there's any Lakshmi left over, we would live on that. But the miracle was that by doing that, there was always plenty of Lakshmi. We bought a new temple that's now worth 7 million or something like that in Boston. And just by distributing books, only, there were no Indians, there was no donations, there was only by distributing books. Because that was by making that emphasis, Prabhupada said very clearly, then all fortune, everything Krishna will send everything, all the Lakshmi you need, everything. If you simply give your full attention and full energy to this one activity of distributing his books. So, okay, we'll read more later, there's other letters. This book, I don't know if anyone has this book. This was a book that came out in 1987. And they only printed 1,000 copies. I don't think they ever printed it again. It's only letters from Srila Prabhupada about book distribution. It's just a collection of those letters about book distribution. So I'll read a few of those afterwards. So yeah, we have plenty of time. I like to stop sometimes and see if there are any questions. So because I know myself, if I have a question and then another 45 minutes goes by, I probably forgot the question. So we'll stop every maybe 15 minutes. Does anyone have any question or thoughts, reflections about so far? Okay. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 68 and 69, Yaimang paramanguyam mad bhakteshu vadashyati nachatasma manusheshu kastan me priyakritamaha. One who preaches the message of Bhagavad Gita to my devotees is most dear to me. No one can excel him in satisfying me by worship. Sometimes devotees get on the mental platform and think, well, it says teaching to devotees. One time and so what are we doing out there with all these people? They're not devotees. But Prabhupada, one time he was asked, it was in a Rath Yatra, and he said, you were mentioning yesterday how many pure devotees there are. And Prabhupada said, how many disciples, how many devotees in our movement? He said, that many devotees. Then he was asking, someone asked him, how many devotees are there? And he said, unlimited. He said, because everyone is a devotee. In essence, every living entity is a devotee of Krishna. He just forgot. He's an illusion. But actually, they're all part and parcel of Krishna. They're all devotees of Krishna. So Prabhupada said that. He said that it's unlimited. When asked how many devotees are there, unlimited. So that we're also preaching to devotees. When you give a Bhagavad Gita of Srila Prabhupada as it is, then Prabhupada will be speaking to the devotees. And you'll be assisting him, we'll be assisting him by giving them the opportunity to hear from Srila Prabhupada and Bhagavad Gita. And so we're doing exactly what Krishna is saying in this verse, teaching the devotees Bhagavad Gita by distributing his books. Yeah. Do you have a microphone? Portable?
One devotee recently told me that there is a categorization, and I don't know if it's true, I just wanted to ask you, that there are nitya baddhas, and so eternally conditioned souls, and eternally free souls, and these free souls may be partially conditioned in this world, and they take up the process of Krishna consciousness, but some souls are eternally conditioned and they will never take up the process. Is that true? I mean, according to what you said, no.
Yeah. I've never read that. I never read it in Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada does say, there are places where Prabhupada says that they can go down life after life. You can go down to hell and stay there forever if you want to. If you want to, and people do want to continue engaging in sinful activities, and they will go down. But it came to my mind when you asked that. It came to my mind one time. This devotee, Madhavisa Prabhu, he was asking Prabhupada, because the Nectar Devotion just came out, and he was saying, but Prabhupada says that you have to be pious and have engaged in devotional service in your previous life to come to devotional service. But who are we? He was saying, who are we? We were all meat eaters and drunkards, and we were all totally sinful. What qualification? And Prabhupada said, I've created your qualification by coming here. That's nature. Pure devotee, he can create the qualification and change if people get the book. Prabhupada said, even just touching the book, that changes their whole destiny. So we can't say categorically that. And who are those people? Can you say, oh yeah, well, that's one of those guys that's going to stay in hell forever? No, you can't categorize. The mercy of a pure devotee, the potency of a pure devotee, he can transform even people who don't want. And we've seen people that there are people. There was a devotee. He told me that he would, before he was a devotee, he would go up on a hill where the devotees are, and he'd throw rocks at devotees, and he became a devotee. I mean, so anyone, by the mercy of a pure devotee, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, anyone can become a devotee. I don't think we should categorize, because I never read anywhere that Prabhupada categorized. He said, yes, you can go to hell forever if you want, but he didn't say that there's some group of people that will go to hell forever, and other people can be devotees. Otherwise, what are you going to do out on the street? You're going to say, well, I think maybe that's one of those. No, I think maybe that guy. I don't like his face. He looks like a demon, and maybe no, devotees. We approach everyone, and oftentimes I've experienced personally when you do that. I mean, when you're going down, you're looking, because you have to discriminate. I mean, if 10 people are walking by, you have to decide who you're going to approach. You can't approach all 10 people simultaneously unless you have yogic powers. You can expand, and you can only expand 7 times. So 3 people are going to go by, but you have to decide someone. But I've seen many times when I've seen a person, maybe there was nobody else around, there was the only and they look really strange, and there's somebody who the mind starts rejecting, thinking, well, they look a little crazy and they look a little dirty. They look, and the mind is saying, no, that person they'll never take. But then intelligence overcomes the mind and said, no, I should approach everyone. And sure enough, every time I always thought like that, sure enough, it turns out to be a really nice person. Just at that time when I was there with you, there was a really strange looking couple. I don't know if you remember that. You got a picture. Yeah. She was full of tattoos. She was about 40. She was probably about 35, but she looked about 60. She was full of tattoos, piercing everywhere, and drunk. And she was like completely out. And there was a fellow with her who didn't look much better than her. And there was nobody else around, so I approached, because the mind had been saying, no, I'm not going to approach them. I'll go to other people. And then finally there was a point where there was no one else. So I approached them, and sure enough, they took a book. They took a book, and they kind of sobered up when I started talking to them. So you never know. And you'll find, you'll experience, if you do book distribution, that whenever your mind starts calculating like that this person is a demon, and you don't try to help them, then Krishna will show you that, no, don't make material calculations. And maybe the picture doesn't do justice to how strange she looked. Yeah, they were. Looked like Mr. and Mrs. Jagai Madai. So, one who preaches the message of Bhagavad Gita to my devotees is most dear to me. No one can excel him in satisfying me by worship. There are different kinds of welfare activities in this material world, but the supreme welfare activity is the spreading of Krishna consciousness. Other welfare activities cannot be effective, for the laws of nature and the results of karma cannot be checked. This is another important thing to understand. It's very nice. People are engaged in so many welfare activities, feeding the poor, opening hospitals, so many things. But the reality is, and it's been proven many times that there's a city in Italy where they were, I think also in India that happened. They would have buildings and have apartments, and they would give these poor people who were living on the street, they would give them an apartment and to live in. And then sure enough, they would go back on the street. They would leave the apartment, try to rent it to somebody, and go back and live on the street, because that was their karma was to live on the street and to be poor. So even they try, and all you do is, first of all, you can't change the material situation. This doesn't mean we shouldn't be kind to people or try to help them. Like it doesn't mean exactly that. But realistically speaking, you can't change people's karma by other karma activities. If they're destined to be poor, you can give them $1 million and they'll lose it, and it'll get stolen. They'll gamble it and lose it, and they'll stay exactly according to what their karma is. And that so much material suffering, so much material enjoyment will be there. Prabhupada said it's hard, especially for Westerners, really hard to understand. When you tell people, if your karma is to earn 1,500 euros a month, you can work 5 jobs and you work all night, and somehow or other you'll only get 1,500 euros. It's karma. It's law. It works. So you can't change the amount of suffering and the amount of enjoyment people will have. But what you can't, the real welfare activity, that's what Prabhupada's explaining here, the real welfare activity is to change their consciousness, to bring them to Krishna consciousness, so that they transcend the laws of karma. They transcend and go back to God, and then no more suffering, no more karma. Otherwise, there's no material way to benefit people. Do you have any questions about that? Because sometimes that's a controversial point. Yes.
It's related to a different topic, if I may ask.
I can't hear you.
It's really it's not specifically about that, but I have a question. If I may.
Yeah.
I heard
By the way,
sorry.
when you get older, I was putting earplugs in before, and the young devotees, they look at you, what a strange, and they go on playing. I guarantee you, when you hit 65, 70, many devotees, if you noticed Indraduna Maharaj, Jayadvaita Maharaj, they have either earplugs or hearing aids, because kartals, they really burn out your eardrums. So after you've been a devotee for many years, you'll find that your hearing starts to diminish. Yes, excuse me.
I listened over the past month to Sankirtan Leelas, and they were explaining how devotees went out twice a day, in the morning until lunch, and then in the evening again after dinner.
Yeah.
Every day, a day, and they still did seva and read and chant and attended the whole programs. And during the first marathon, the first person who came back, thinking they were one of the last, came back at midnight. But most stayed out to 2, 3 in the morning, and still they attended the whole program. And the marathon lasted a year. So how did they do it?
The what?
How did they do it? And they had fun doing it.
Yes, they had lots of fun doing it. After they had to rest, of course, to recuperate. You can ask them. They were telling me that this is our last day. I think now we're going to have to rest. In Man. So yes, they're not superhuman, but when you're inspired by spiritual energy, the body, you can push to beyond the normal limits, but it doesn't mean you may not crash at a certain point. So you can't go. You have to use your intelligence to not make the body sick or destroy the body. But at some occasions, like big festivals and marathons like that, devotees go beyond their limits, their apparently material limits. They can transcend and go beyond that, yes, by spiritual potency. Because they're feeling that's a proof of the pleasure one experiences by pleasing the spiritual master, by engaging in a service that's so pleasing to the spiritual master. That reciprocation of love, that reciprocation of spiritual transcendental pleasure is there. It's real. It's a fact. And if you do it, you can experience it. If you overcome your limit, the mind is telling you, no, I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm this and that and that. My back hurts. We have our devotee here, Manu. His back was really hurting, like anything, intense pain. But he. And I can tell you other stories of devotees in wheelchairs they're always in wheelchairs. And they're going out and distributing books all day. There was one, he got a chair, and he put him in the street, got in a chair, called people over, and distribute books. And Prabhupada reciprocates even more. If we're sacrificing even more, when we would naturally think, I don't know if I would. My mind would think naturally that I can't stand on my back. I'm going to go home and lie down. But he was so determined that he got a chair, sat on the street, and called people over. There's one. I told this story other place, but there's one devotee. He's born in America, but he had a Chinese body. I don't know if you know any Chinese people there. When they fix on something, they're like, they have blinders on. They just go straight, really determined. And he just before he became a devotee, half his leg got chopped off in a motorcycle accident. So he came to the movement. He had one leg, and he was on crutches. I swear he would go on in Sankirtan every day, 7 days a week. Because like I said, Chinese people, they're like fanatic. On Janmashtami, every day he would go. He would get to the car. He would lean on the car. He would throw his wheelchair in the car, and he had a automatic car, so somehow he could drive. He would go out to a parking lot or a street somewhere, come down, put the wheelchair out, jump into the wheelchair. He had a bag of books on the back of the wheelchair, and he'd have a can. People would put Lakshmi in. He would distribute. He'd pull the book out and distribute books all day, because he must have been experiencing incredible reciprocation from Krishna and Prabhupada and his spiritual master. So, otherwise, how can you do something like that? How can you do something? And I know other devotees. One lady, Bhavatarini, she was also in a wheelchair. She would put. In those days, they had permission to distribute books in the airports in America. She was in a strategic position at the airport. She would sit in her wheelchair and just yell, call people over, distribute books. So, where there's a will, there's a way. You can always. There's no. One of our best distributors right now in Italy, he's named Lokeshwara. He's 70 years old, and he just had an operation. He had, these heavy varicose veins on his leg, and he had his hip, and he's had up. He's the most. I'm telling you, he's the most enthusiastic book distributor. He was out after a couple days. He was, in the hospital. After a couple of days after, he's out. He came in, I think, third in the marathon. He's out every day. Every time I call him, he said, "Oh, you're really inspiring me." I said, "I'm telling you, you're inspiring me," because he's like personification of enthusiasm to distribute books. So, and I know in Russia there's many babushka, they call them, old ladies. They're like, some are 80 years old, and they're like fire. They're like determined. They go out door to door distributing Prabhupada's books. That means their spiritual life is real. Krishna reciprocates by our sacrifice. That's why this verse, I'll reread this verse. Listen to this verse. It is said that great personalities almost always accept voluntary suffering. It doesn't say voluntary enjoyment, it says voluntary suffering, because of the suffering of people in general, because they see that people are suffering. I've got to do this. even it's painful, even if I'm suffering, I've got to do this because people are suffering much more. And they have no idea how much suffering is waiting for them for the next life, when they have to leave the body. And the devotee, because he's read Srimad-Bhagavatam, he's conscious of that. He's fully conscious of how much people are suffering. And he just can't tolerate it, just too much. It makes him cry, it makes him unhappy. It's just like if you've ever gone into visited an old age home or a slaughterhouse, or if you ever distributed books in a hospital. There's some devotee that likes to distribute books in hospitals. I don't know, in Italy there's devotees that specialize in hospitals. Because you can go and meet the doctors and nurses and some of the patients also. But it's very educating to go in a hospital. I highly advise it. Once in a while, if you're feeling a little bewildered, go and distribute books in a hospital. Or even just go walk around in a hospital. And then you remember, the material world is a place of suffering, when you see somebody with tubes coming out of him and how much they're suffering. So that's, and the devotee, that's why it says great personalities. Great personalities means that they're experiencing reciprocation from Krishna. Happiness, love from Krishna by sacrificing. Otherwise, how would they do it? Why in the world would you want to do that? Go out in the cold and go out, suffer. There's pain. Your hands hurt, your feet hurt. I remember we were distributing in Boston, because I'm from San Francisco. I joined in the temple in San Francisco. And at a certain point, the devotee asked me, the president here we did something strange, and we need a new president here. So they invited me, why don't you come with my new wife? I was 21 years old. Devotees don't realize how this movement started, how a miracle. It's the proof of Krishna's potency and Prabhupada's potency to empower people, because we were all just kids. I was 21 years old, and he became to be the president of this temple. There was Radha and Krishna deities. There was maybe 20 devotees. And but because that desire to please Srila Prabhupada was there, somehow Prabhupada gave us the intelligence, somehow or other, he empowered devotees to do the services. We weren't very good at it, but somehow miracles happened. This movement spread by Prabhupada's mercy. What was I going to say? That's another thing. When you get older, you get... Oh, yeah. And then I got to Boston, and it was the fall, and the winter started coming. And I mean, in San Francisco, in my life growing up, in 20 years, I saw snow. Yeah, we went to the mountain to go skiing a couple of times. But in San Francisco, one time when I was a kid, we saw a few flakes higher up in the sky. By the time they got to the ground, it was rain. But that's as far as I ever had with dealing with. So I got to Boston. Boston regularly was getting, meters. Like they said here, they used to get 2 meters of snow here. So Boston is more or less the same. So it was quite heavy for me. And but then we had just started a book. I can tell that story maybe at the next meeting, the next class we'll give. But book distribution had just started in San Francisco, and then we brought that enthusiasm to Boston, and we started getting all devotees, myself included, we were all going out on book distribution all day. But the thing was, it was snowing out. It was freezing. I mean, it was really, really, really cold. And I was just thinking of the suffering. We would walk up to the door. We were doing door to door. People don't stop on the street when it's when there's snow like this, and so we were going door to door. And then in those days, people would open their door. There was no crime or fear of. And I couldn't talk. I was like, my whole mouth was frozen. We had to walk through the snow because you've seen television. American houses, they have this lawn, this garden in the front, and you have to walk through their garden and then get to their door. And then but I was like, excuse me. I couldn't. It was because it was so cold. So, but I was in ecstasy. I can say that there was the more it was difficult, the more Krishna reciprocated with spiritual happiness, spiritual ecstasy. It's something you have to experience. We're inviting all of you to experience it. Try it for yourself. But anyone who has, they can attest to and witness that it's true. It actually happens. But you have to get out of your comfort zone and become a great personality and accept voluntary suffering because of the suffering of others. Okay. Other welfare activities cannot be effective. I'll explain it. It is by destiny or the laws of karma that one must suffer or enjoy. For instance, if one is given a court order, he must accept it, whether it brings suffering or profit. Similarly, everyone is under obligation to karma and its reactions. No one can change this. Therefore, the Shastra says, Tasyaiva hetu preteta kovida nalabhyate yad brahmatam uparyadha. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.5.18. One should endeavor for that which is never obtained by wandering up and down the universe as a result of the reactions of karma. One should endeavor for that which is never obtained by wandering up and down the universe as a result of the reactions of karma. This makes me remember another reason we were inspired to distribute books in the beginning like that was with Tripurari Maharaj and also Trai Prabhu. The program was we would stop even while we were distributing on the street together or in the airport. We would stop anytime and just open up a Srimad-Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, whatever book we had in our hand, and just read a few sentences. And I can tell you, while you're distributing, to read something, it's really powerful, very, very potent. Just meditate on two or three lines, Prabhupada's books. because Prabhupada's books have an unlimited depth, you could say, an unlimited depth. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper. There's just layers and layers. You can go deeper and deeper and deeper. And the more you're sacrificing and engaging in Samkirtan Yagya, sacrifice, you'll go deeper and deeper. When you open and read even one phrase like this, one should endeavor for that which is never obtained by wandering up and down the universe as a result of the reactions of karma. You can go deeper and deeper, and that explains practically the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada is amazing because his books, they are condense the whole philosophy. He even said that. He said in the first I put all the philosophy in the first canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam because I didn't know if I would be able to write or produce other books. So I put it all in the first canto. And it's all in all of the books. It's actually amazing. The more deeply you go into reading Prabhupada's books, everything is there again and again from all different angles. So what is that? One should endeavor to become Krishna conscious. If one tries to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world, he should be understood to be performing the best welfare activity. The Lord is automatically very pleased with him. Automatically very pleased with him. That's the goal of our Krishna consciousness. That's what we're trying to do, to please Krishna. Like I mentioned before, Anyabhilasha Dashunyam Gyanakama Madhyanavritam, to perform favorable service for the pleasure of Krishna. So if we're trying to spread Krishna consciousness to others, sacrifice, then Krishna will be the most pleased. If the Lord is pleased with him, what is left for him to achieve? If one has been recognized by the Lord, even if he does not ask the Lord for anything, the Lord who is within everyone supplies him whatever he wants. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. Again, as stated here, tapyante lokatapena sadhava prayasho janaha. The best welfare activity is raising people to the platform of Krishna consciousness, since the conditioned souls are suffering only for want of Krishna consciousness. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. His spiritual master would always say, the only thing missing in this world, the only thing lacking is Krishna consciousness. Everything is there. There's enough food for everyone. There's enough, just they mismanage it, and they're not Krishna conscious. Because they're not Krishna consciousness, Krishna restricts the supply, but everything can be there. It's just only thing really lacking is Krishna consciousness. That's why it's so essential and important to spread, give Krishna consciousness to others. The Lord himself also comes to mitigate the suffering of humanity. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata bhutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritaranaya sarunam vinashya chadushkritam dharma sangstapanartaya sambhavam yuge yuge. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharat, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I invent myself millennium after millennium. Bhagavad Gita 4, 7, and 8. All the Shastras conclude, therefore, that spreading the Krishna consciousness movement is the best welfare activity in the world, because of the ultimate benefit this bestows upon people in general. The Lord very quickly recognizes such service performed by a devotee. Haribo. Very quickly recognizes such service. So this is the point. We want to be recognized by Krishna, by our spiritual master. That's the goal. We're trying to please them, and then they'll take us back to home, back to Godhead. And then we'll be engaged eternally in giving pleasure to Krishna, which is our eternal constitutional Sanatana Dharma, eternal position of complete happiness. There is no other method of happiness. There's different kinds of happiness, but it's not really happiness. There's material happiness from sense gratification, but we think of it as happiness. We're still in illusion thinking that it's not happiness. The only real happiness, there's some happiness in impersonal liberation, but it's the happiness that's compared to that kind of happiness is compared to if I twist your arm, and I'm twisting your arm, it's like, oh, it's so painful. And then, that's happiness of impersonal liberation. That's as much happiness as is there. We're suffering, and now stop suffering. But no happiness, just stop suffering. That's as much happiness as there. Material sense gratification is just completely illusion, because it's a very temporary sensation of pleasure, but then suffering. And then the reaction is so much suffering. So the only real happiness is becoming Krishna conscious and returning to our eternal constitutional position of serving favorably for the pleasure of Krishna. Only then will we be happy. And the more we're convinced of that, that's what Srimad-Bhagavatam is there, is trying to convince us of that reality by giving us, like I mentioned in the beginning, the negative side, how material world is suffering, and the positive side, what the real transcendental pleasure is in the spiritual world. Okay. So first ask some questions, then read a couple of letters to come up to 9 o'clock. Any other questions or comments, reflections? Yes.
A devotee who wants to preach or distribute books, and you said they are doing voluntarily suffering, voluntary inconvenience. But what happens when the voluntary inconvenience become too unbearable? And it happens eventually.
Yeah.
So this voluntary inconvenience, already everybody has personal inconvenience, then you put yourself in a voluntary plus inconvenience, and that becomes unbearable. So how would you save the conditioned soul where you yourself are in a very precarious position?
Yeah, you have to use your intelligence to see what my limits are, how much I can. There was one devotee who, he fell down, he was sannyasi, he was also guru. He fell down, and they said he fell down because he sacrificed too much in doing devotional service. What was it? Yeah, he did so much devotional service that he fell down, something like that, which is absurd. But you have to have the intelligence, and if you don't have enough intelligence, take advice from someone more intelligent to advise you how to organize your life in such a way that it's doable for you. You may say, no, I'll go out all night in the snow. I was surprised last night, because I go to bed pretty early, so I can get up early. And last night at 11 o'clock, everyone did start having kirtan around the temple. It's like, but it's like -7 degrees outside. But fortunately, it didn't last too long, so they went. I guess you went around just. I fell back asleep. But I mean, is you have, if you can't do it yourself, then ask for help. Said I can't do it, and it's too much for me. I can't do. So okay, regulate yourself. Find a way that you can continue helping others, continue preaching, but in a way that's practical and doable for you, according to your conditioning, according to what you're able to do. I personally, I've been outside. I was in Minneapolis one time. Minneapolis is worse than here. It was our dear Sankirtan leader. He sent our traveling party up there at Christmas time for the Christmas marathon, and they all went down to see Prabhupada in Atlanta, Georgia, where it only snows once in a while, a little bit, and they got to see Prabhupada. We didn't get to see it. But it was like 20 below zero constantly all day long. I mean, if you go outside into it would freeze before it hit the ground. It was unbelievably cold. But we could go out in the parking lot and then run back inside and stand over the heater in the store for a little while and then go back out again. But if you stay, if some devotee was like maybe that Chinese devotee, if you would stay out too long, you would die. You probably would find him there, left his body. So you have to probably use your intelligence. Use your intelligence to organize your life in such a way that you're able to do it. And if you're bewildered and you can't figure it out, then ask some senior devotee, some leader, how to organize yourself. And what happened during the COVID, during the lockdown, he thought, how are we going to do Sankirtan? How, everything is stopped. But Vaisheshwar, he tells how in his temple there in Silicon Valley, they started doing everything on the phone and shipping out. They said they did bigger than ever, did more books than ever. So if the desire is there, Krishna will give you the intelligence how to, in whatever situation, whatever obstacle, if you break your leg, or if if it's too cold, or if there's a lockdown, whatever there may be, if the desire is there, then Krishna will show you how to find a way to do it. At least that's my experience. Yes. So devotee way back there.
Prabhu, when we go out, we meet also, how to say, followers of other traditions, and it's interesting because we claim that we are sticking to the truth, and they are also claiming that they are sticking to the truth, and sometimes one can see that they get genuine benefit from their efforts, and I want to respect them for whatever standard of spiritual practice they have, but I don't want to become, how to say, deviated from my own path. So how can I accomplish both at the same time?
Yes, be respectful, appreciate. I mean, I remember in Italy, in the south of Italy, the people are very religious, and sometimes you go to door to door, and you find people sitting there chanting a rosary. It's quite common, older people. You'll find them there, really absorbed in chanting the rosary. And they're really pious people. They're really, and they'll take books very easily. If you respect them, they're not fanatic. Generally, Catholic are a little less fanatic than Protestant. That's my experience. I mean, in America, I don't know here, but in Italy, like that. In America, it's the born again ones that are hard. And yes, you should be respectful. That says that in the Shastra, that you should respect any scripture that speaks about God. And but at the same, you'll be strong in your conviction by reading the books and being strong in Krishna consciousness, chanting very carefully. Did you know that breathing incense is just as toxic as smoking cigarettes? It's scientifically proven. If you can put it out. If you breathe incense all day, if you're on the puja, it can be sometimes like smoking 1 or 2 packs of cigarettes a day. The same effect on your lungs. Sorry, where's the... Oh, yeah, that's right. So, you should be respectful. You won't become bewildered if you're practicing very seriously, and if you're reading the books every day very carefully, you won't be disturbed, and you won't be proud. Tendency is if you're a really neophyte, then you become proud. I have the best way. I'm better than you. But the quality of a Vaishnava, of a devotee, he naturally becomes more and more humble. The more you advance in Krishna consciousness, you become more and more humble and realize every day you realize a little more that how far away I am, how fallen I am, how great pure devotional service is, and how far away and how small I am. When you're new, when you're neophyte, you think, I'm taking up this process, it's the best, so I'm the best. And so you become proud and you think you're better than other people. And then naturally you'll become bewildered. So being advanced in Krishna consciousness by your own practice, and being respectful and appreciating. You can see the difference in different countries, places where the society, the culture in general is more religious. People are more pious. They're more friendly with devotees. There are differences in places between places where people are all atheists, and so you should appreciate that. I can say from all these years I've been in Italy, I can appreciate the church has its defects, and so do we have our defects. And but the people do have some conception of that God is a person, that I should worship God, and okay, we appreciate that. Prabhupada said that. He said that we're very similar. He said with the Catholic Church, that if they would just stop eating meat, we could cooperate together. We could do a lot of things together. If they're they have this one problem that they can't understand why they shouldn't eat meat. Thou shalt not kill. He said if they would do that, then we have a lot of similarities. So we appreciate that. Okay. Yes. I think we have to stop. I'll read one very short letter.
Can I ask the question? Or
Yeah, real quick.
We hear often that this initial book distribution movement of ISKCON and the exponential expansion that is only related to the past, and now everything changed, like we have many grihastas and the mood is more on many different other things, and we can see that practically we have many temples, for example, in Germany, and they maintaining all kinds of different programs and things to maintain the temple and to get some Lakshmi through donations. But practically it's very hard to go back to this preaching spirit of distributing books. So what is the cause? What would you say, how to promote or inspire the devotees more? And is this movement really over, or should we just continue with distributing books?
Yes, we should continue distributing books. This movement is not over. No. It had a few little upsets along the way, and I think it definitely can be revived, and it is being revived. Look at the temple. It's so inspiring if you actually go and try to understand what's going on there in ISKCON Silicon Valley, where Vaisheshika Prabhu is. He was telling me how they invited him to be the president of the temple there. He was a grihasta. He was distributing books. He was also had a business, and they invited him to be and they asked him, so what do we want to do? What's our project? What do we want? They're all Indians, 100%, all Indians. The best Indians in the world. I mean, these are like the top of the top, the ones who made it. You know, the engineers that made it all the way to California, to Silicon Valley, got the best jobs. Some of them are running, Facebook and Meta and all these things. And but they are. Most of them are from South India. They were all devotees in their heart, and so they said, "So we're going to build a big Vedic temple," and he said, "No, that's not my project. My project is this temple is a book distribution." And so he preached about it and gave classes every day, morning and evening classes to them. Very intelligent people. I mean, really top of of the world. And they became real, not because he didn't look at them as, oh yeah, the Indians come here, they give us some money, and thank you, and we do some rituals for you, and then you go away and go on with your life. No, he made them devotees. He actually, by preaching, by his constant preaching, explaining the philosophy, he turned them into regular ISKCON devotees. They're all grihastas, obviously. They all have jobs, but they, after their work, in the evening, they go out and distribute books. On the weekends, they go out and distribute books. He's instilled that mood. And they're like either one or two in the North America, biggest book distribution. And they're gradually catching up to the way it was. In other words, book distribution, we shouldn't think that it's only the way it was when there was just brahmacharis going on and distributing books, brahmacharis and brahmacharinis distributing books. No. He's the proof. He could have thought like that because he was a brahmachari for many years. 10 years he was a brahmachari, full-time book distributor. And but he found himself, he said, let's make this the example temple. And he was starting with only grihastas. And what's the interesting thing? Now they're going to build a big temple. now they have a project to build many $1 million super Vedic temple based on book distribution. So we have to get the priorities straight. If you make the priority book distribution, Prabhupada said many times that everything else will come. All fortune, all the big we have 3 big temples in Italy, big buildings. They're worth, Villa Vrindavan's worth like 15 million, at least, maybe more. It's the most expensive property in all of Europe, definitely, maybe in the world outside of India. There was one devotee, he initially gave some down payment, but the rest is all by book distribution. And Prabhupada, it's a big building, so much land, some of you have been there. It's all purchased by book distribution. So we should know that if we make our priority book distribution, everything else, all the other programs and projects that are looking for money, you'll get all the money you need if you distribute books. And even if the devotees are doing other things, if you just keep the emphasis on it, because the congregation, like he started with only congregation, but he trained them and he started with the monthly Sankirtan festival. I don't think I'll have time for this. With the monthly Sankirtan festival, and got them to get a taste. They would come out, no pressure, no anxiety, just come out, meet the people, and gradually, devotees began to get. They have so much taste now that, like I said, they work full time. These are people who work 6 days a week, and heavy. America, there's very few holidays or. Working, but they go out in the evening, but door to door, and distribute Prabhupada's books because they have a taste for it, and because that was the priority, and everything else will come. Now, like I said, now they're going to get the temple they wanted because they had the priorities straight. So I think if we do that, and if the leaders preach like that, preach about that as a priority, and not being limited to think that. Only brahmacharis can distribute books, or brahmacharinis can distribute books. No, that everyone. Prabhupada said that there's another letter here, or I was just reading somewhere. He says, I want that everyone learn the art of book distribution. All devotees of this movement learn the art of book distribution. Because it should be part, like we know how to chant japa, we know how we read Srimad-Bhagavatam, we know how to worship India. So it's part of being a devotee of this movement, the Hare Krishna movement, is distributing book. That was Prabhupada's project. He came to the West with books in his hand. That's his mission. One devotee even said that Prabhupada told him that Krishna asked me, you go down to this, can you go down to the planet Earth? And at first he said, the Prabhupada said, no, that horrible place. No, you just go and you go and write these books. You go and write these books. I'll arrange everything for you. Just go down there, write these books, and then you come back. So Prabhupada came here for that's his main mission, that he came to write. Because from these books, everything else will come. Because everything we need to know about how to be Krishna conscious, how to build temples, how to create temples, how to make devotees, everything is there in the books. So that's the main program. Okay, I think we better end there. Yeah, okay. I know that the clock is 2 or 3 minutes ahead, but 9:30. Oh, want me to read one letter now? But then it takes all the time to bring all prasadam out and everything. Everyone's getting. I don't like to give longer than. Prabhupada would only give half-hour class. 45 minutes when there was a long class. I personally, because I think our attention span, the max is an hour for most people. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada's book distribution marathon ki jai, Srila Prabhupada's book distribution ki jai. The new year, Srila Prabhupada's book distribution ki jai. Remember that it's no longer 2025 is over. We're now in this afternoon, isn't it? This afternoon is a meeting for the vision of this coming year. So please all participate in this meeting. Where are the Czech devotees that didn't arrive yet? Oh, they're still coming. I think it's been a problem for devotees to come because of the roads and the snow. Yeah.
His Grace Trai Prabhu ki jai. So thank you for this wonderful lecture, Trai Prabhu. And devotees, please take care and clean up the temple room that we can roll out the mats and prepare the prasadam. If you'd